Man, I we let me center myself. We need to, we absolutely need to have a discussion, a very special discussion for you passive Africans out there. For you passive Africans out there who want to come to Europe for jobs. You want to come to America for jobs. You want to go to the West for jobs, not to make things better for your people or to make things better collectively for Africans, just just to exist in white society, in white systems, and to be accepted by white people. You have forgotten the face of your father. To all the Africans that are educated, and I'm talking to you boarding school generation, you go along to get along generation. Every time you see a white person, you smile so hard, but see an African, you do not. You do not. I'm talking to you, especially you elders, especially who I see caping, just caping for the same people that killed your grandfathers. They took you to boarding schools and they made you want to be a part of this society so bad that you were willing to forget what they did. And now, as they remind you who they are, as tensions continue to grow and they remind you who they are, now you're shocked. Oh, times have changed. Yeah. No, they have not changed. They have not changed. Let this be a reminder. And since South Africa was the example, let's keep going with South Africa, right? Well, you need a reminder of what they did. This is what they did. This is what they did. They came to our continent. To our continent. They conquered. They stayed. Or they put in place stupid, selfish Africans that were willing to sell their people to continue neocolonialism. But in South Africa, they stayed, right? What does this sound like? I can't say the full words because we already know we're gonna get shadow banned. But what does that sound like? Doesn't that sound like the Aliens and the Indians? Didn't the Aliens and the Indians do that? They did. Look at what's happening. If you're Nigerian, there are examples. If you are Ghanaian, there are examples. If you are Kenyan, there are examples, right? If you are South African, there are examples. Throughout the entire continent, there are examples. And we're going to touch on the Arabs in a second, right? We're going to touch on the Arabs in a second. Pause. But this is what we're current. You forgot the face of your father. Too many of you Africans are getting jobs, good money, X, Y, and Z, and your political stances while your brothers are still being destroyed are neutral, silent, and protective. Neutral, silent, and protective of your own silly silo of white acceptance. And it is unacceptable. And you should be ashamed of yourself. This is what happened. This is mild. This is mild. Compared to what they did. This is what they did to us, man. I don't care if this video gets demonetized. This must be seen. This is what was done to us, right? And I don't think you spend enough time remembering what was done. Because apparently, you can't seem to see they're mobilizing for war. While you're doing what? Drinking, getting degrees, and wanting their validation. While they're out at gun ranges with their children. They're out at gun ranges with their children. You send them away and teach them no Afrocentricity while they mobilize. Not to mention, Africans have such a problem with learning from Black Americans. Look at what white South Africans are doing with white Americans. The exact opposite. Not only are they learning, they're coming together to form this new white supremacist, neo-Nazi, extra super duper colonizer, because they see we're starting to have conversations. That's how much even a conversation makes them fear. Just a conversation, right? But again, the work is not to just focus on, the work is to focus on you passive Africans who don't care. And every time a topic like this comes up, you're scared to discuss it in front of your white friends. You're scared to discuss it in front of your white coworkers. You're scared to discuss it in general because you have no pride. You have no respect. And you have no reverence for the sacrifices of your ancestors. You have no reverence for the sacrifices of your fathers, for the sacrifices of your grandfathers. The passive African is the problem. When Nat Turner, and this is why I tell Africans to learn American history. When Nat Turner, let me make sure I get that correct. But Nat Turner asked, how many of you want to be free? Nat Turner is an American, foundational, Black American slave that revolted, for those of you who don't know and don't have the patience, that revolted for his freedom and led a slave revolt. Pretty successful too. They did kill him. But he asked, how many of you want to be free? Everybody raised their hand. He said, how many of you are willing to kill for this freedom? And only a couple of them didn't raise their hand. And he said, the first thing we need to do is kill these guys. I'm not advocating for any violence. I'm not advocating for any violence. But I want you to understand the concept of the passive neutrality. The passive neutrality that exists within our community simply because of the educational mind frame of the boarding school systems to kill the African and keep the man. And now we have a large generation of very passive, drunk, highly educated, extremely out of shape, non-violent, non-combative Africans who can hardly stand up for themselves verbally, let alone militarily. Yet we are on the verge of that right now. A scared white man is a dangerous one. It's a dangerous one. And I do not believe that Africans are going to be ready for what is about to occur. Not ready at all. Not ready at all. But, you know, we'll get there. So again, to all you passive Africans, it's time for you to ask yourself to choose a side. It's time for you to ask yourself to choose a side. And believe it or not, some of you might be married to people outside of your race, which is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, right? Love is love. But ask yourself, is that benefit really going to come to you? And I don't think so. And I know this conversation makes a lot of you uncomfortable. It makes a lot of you uncomfortable. Get out your comfort zone. Get out your comfort zone. You'll live.